Hello and welcome to Hello Velo Cycling. If it's your first time here, I'm honoured to have you and I hope you enjoy the show. Today, it's Friday, the day before stage one of the 2024 Tour de France. And I'm extremely excited, as I'm sure most of you are as well, to see what happens. We're going to touch on to a couple of things today. We're going to touch on to the first four stages and the profiles in them. And we're going to touch on the main protagonists in this race and how the media and the press have talked about them so far and where I think they may have missed a small detail and what might happen if I'm correct about that. So let's get into it. All right. So there's a couple of unusual things this year about the Tour. First of all, it started in Italy. The first three stages, in fact, are on Italian soil. Secondly, there is no finish in Paris on the Champs-Élysées, and this is due to the Olympics taking place in France. So we have a couple of different things that are going to happen and could shake up the Tour de France. One of the things that has changed also that I am actually very excited for and looking forward to is stage one is not a time trial. Stage one is actually going to cross the Apennine mountain range in Italy, 3,800 meters of total climbing. And I think this is going to be the Tour de France getting off with a bang. I think we will possibly see the GC explode on day one. And I think by the end of day one, we could see a lot of gaps all the way down the top 10. Why do I think that? Well, for a couple of reasons. But the main reason is some of the main protagonists are not or may not be in the perfect shape or form for this year's Tour. Everybody knows about Jonas Vingergaard's terrible crash at the Tour of the Basque Country earlier this year. It was only a couple of months ago and he suffered some horrendous injuries, broken ribs, a broken sternum, I believe, and a damaged lung. Now, I can't imagine, even with an elite athlete like Vingegaard and the best treatment that he can get, that a couple of months is not only enough to recover fully from those injuries, but also enough time to train and prepare to take on the toughest Grand Tour of the year against arguably his toughest opponent in Tadej Pogačar. Secondly, Pogačar is on amazing form at the moment. He's won the Giro d'Italia, he's won several other big races this year, and he has an incredible strike rate for success for days raced versus days won. There is, though, a fly in the ointment, and that is that he has recently reported that he's never felt better on a bike, but then he got COVID 2 weeks ago. I don't think it was severe from what he told us. He said he only took 1 day off the bike in order to help recovery and that he now feels absolutely fine. So if we take him at his word, we might see a strong, motivated Pogačar looking to achieve, for the first time in a quarter of a century, the double of Giro d'Italia and Tour de France in the same year. That is an incredible motivating thing to fire an excited Pogačar up. We could be seeing a slightly diminished Jonas Vingegaard, especially in the first week, perhaps. He might want to ease into this. But as we'll see in a moment, the parkour for the first stage and the fourth stage do not give anybody the time to rest and ease into this year's Tour. Okay. The press have made a lot about the Vingegaard versus Pogačar battle for this Tour. They each have won the Tour twice before. They really are the each other's nemesis. But not many people have spoken about Primož Roglič. Primož has had an incredible an incredible amount of success in Grand Tours. He's won the Vuelta 3 times, and he won an incredibly difficult Giro d'Italia last year. Horrendous weather, really bad conditions, and an on-form Geraint Thomas pushed and pushed, leading in pink for virtually the entire Giro, and Primož had to dig deep to win it on the very last stage. So we know that Primož is a capable GC contender. Add to that leaving Visma means he's now at Bora Hansgrohe as the sole leader of that team. When he was at Visma, there was always a bit of a contentious thing about shared leadership and who should be the leader for which race. Bora will have lined up behind Primož, and the team will be there to aid and assist him in his ambition of winning the Tour de France. But it gets even better than that. This week, Bora Hansgrohe announced that Redbull are now part owners and title sponsors of the team. Redbull have announced they are extremely excited to get this started, and the Tour de France is their first venture into the world of road cycle racing. I mean, they've dived in at the deep end. There's absolutely no easing into it for Red Bull, right? We know also that they do not partner with anybody who does not have the capability to be successful or the desire to be successful. Red Bull will bring with them a huge resource of finance, but of professional experts in many fields that will layer on top of what is already a very experienced and well-funded team in Bora Hansgrohe. So, Primož Roglič is probably sitting in a better position than he ever has historically entering a Grand Tour. If there is any hint that Pogačar has not recovered perfectly from COVID and Vingergaard is still recovering from his injuries, I think we could see Roglič come out the gate fast and hard on stage 1, where they will do that 3,800 meters of climbing over the Apennine Mountains in Italy. It's not going to be an easy day, and I think we're going to see explosions and fireworks immediately on the first stage. Okay, let's move on to stage 2, stage 3. And this is where it gets a little bit different. Both days are relatively flat. I mean, stage 2 has got a few lumps and bumps in it, and maybe you could argue that's a day for the breakaway, but I think we might see a sprint finish. It could be a 50-50 there. Stage 3, pretty flat for the first 2/3, and then there's some lumps and bumps at the end. So again, sprint teams versus breakaway, not quite sure how that's going to go. I think stage 2 and stage 3 though will be heavily fought over and contested by the sprint teams. It will be interesting to see who's brave enough to go out the front in a breakaway and how that forms up and what they can achieve on days 2 and days 3 with relatively fresh legs. Speaking of the sprinters, Mark Cavendish, the Brit, currently holds the record for most Tour stages, shared with the legendary Eddie Merckx. Cavendish was supposed to retire last year, and he was aiming for his 35th stage. A crash and injury unfairly and cruelly took him out of the Tour early doors last year, and Cavendish, on reflection, decided not to retire, and we have him here for one more year as he tries to break that record and hit 35 Tour de France stage wins. And I think we can all agree, if anyone can do it, Cavendish can do it. So stage 2 and 3 could be where he starts pushing for that win. All right, stage 4. We cross the border into France, and we don't do it lightly. This is going to be a tough day for the peloton, and it's really one for the climbers. There are 2 category 2 climbs, and then later on the Col de Galibier, the hors category, is not far before the end of the race. So summit, and then it looks like there is, let me see, it looks like there is around about 10 to 15k from the summit to the finish line. So it's going to be a downhill, fast finish. We know what Tom Pidcock is capable of on a descent, and particularly on the Col de Galibier. He's an absolute demon. So if he can get over that summit anywhere within a couple of minutes of the front, he stands a very good chance at a stage win. Okay, well, I think that's about as far and as deep into the tour as we're going to go at this stage. I'm going to make one of these videos maybe every stage, maybe every couple of stages as well. What I would absolutely love is to have your comments and interaction down below. Post down there what you think. Have I got this entirely wrong? Did I get it entirely wrong? What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your predictions. I'd love to hear your analysis after each stage as well down in the comments, and let's see what we all think. I would dearly love your support throughout this tour, building this channel, and I would love you to subscribe, hit the notifications so you don't miss anything, and share it to anyone that might be interested. The support is very, very much gratefully received, and I really do want to reply to every single comment where possible. So, thank you very much for getting this far. I'm super excited, as you can probably tell. I really hope you guys are too. And let's get back together after the first stage or two and talk about what's happened. And I will revisit the comments from this video and we'll talk about those too. Great. Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the first stage.